In today's video, we're again going to be going over that upcoming Arctic blast pattern that we're going to be in. We're also going to go over the current conditions and a big tropical update also, so there's a lot coming up. Now, let's get straight into things, and first things first, we're just taking a look at these current conditions. We see there is a bit of activity up here in the north-central United States, as well as the south-central United States, where we've had that devastating flooding taking place. And then along the eastern United States as well, we could see quite a bit of activity all the way from offshore of the southeast to onshore of the northeast. Let's just zoom into some different regions here. We see there is a tiny bit of activity taking place here in the states of Washington, potentially down south into Oregon as well, just some showers and isolated little bits of activity down there. Now, as we take a look at the north central United States, we can see some showery activity taking place here for Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. And then we can see a pocket further east than that where we have a little bit of some heavier activity here for South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, and even earlier on Minnesota there. And then up here for portions of the Great Lakes and Upper Midwest, we do have some showers and maybe thunderstorms taking place here, mostly for the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but also northern Washington, or northern Wisconsin that are better yet. Now, as we move down to the south central United States, we can see mostly scattered and isolated activity here for New Mexico and Texas. This is both in the form of showers and thunderstorms. We can see that along the Texas coast, we do have this flow of just isolated and scattered tropical thunderstorms taking place here, flowing in from the Gulf of Mexico. And even as we work our way further eastward, we can see the same thing taking place here for Louisiana. And then also Mississippi there, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle there. We're seeing a ton of activity for these regions. Further north here, we can see for the more central regions of these Gulf states, we have that flooding rainfall that was over Texas and Oklahoma, now over Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. So be on the lookout for potential flooding. We're going to be watching for these things over the coming days. We can see this pocket of thunderstorms and showers just offshore of the East Coast, obviously not coming back any further west, so this is all but said and done for the most part. And then as we work our way towards the northeast, we can see some thunderstorms and showers. We'll actually zoom into this pocket, but we can see quite a bit of activity in here, not only for further north areas, but also Pennsylvania, New York. Here we're seeing quite a bit of thunderstorms and showers as we have a low somewhere in here causing all this activity to just spiral around. We see thunderstorms again, like I mentioned, and a lot of showers for sure. Even southern New England here, we're seeing these pockets of thunderstorms and showers, Long Island into Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts as well. And then for Maine here, we're seeing some showery activity here, especially the further north and east you go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at that temperature outlook for the coming days and even take a long-range look at the temperature outlook. And then we're going to move into the storminess and eventually the tropical activity. Now here we are taking a look at the upcoming temperature pattern as we work our way towards approximately, this is going to be around today. We can see that we are dealing with some below normal temperatures already in the area for a lot of the eastern United States. The darker blues and greens are going to be further below normal. The lighter blues are going to be a lot closer to normal, but still below normal. Now, this is an important time for me to mention that my definition of Arctic blast is going to be an air mass coming from the Arctic regions blasting down into the eastern United States. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Arctic blast, air blasting from the Arctic into the United States, Arctic blast. A lot of people, when they hear the word Arctic blast, they think, oh, it's going to be 20 degrees and snowy, or think that I'm calling for something extreme like that. No, I'm calling for an Arctic air mass to set into the eastern United States, which is abnormal for this time of year, but not unheard of at all by any means. It is just a very, very strong cool down for the most part. A lot of times when you see cool downs, it might be air that is coming from just a little bit further north and heading in, but this time around we are seeing a lot of these come straight from the Arctic Circle, which is what makes it an Arctic blast in my book. In the long range, we're going to see a lot more of this. For instance, Monday, August 29th, we see this air mass here clearly over the Arctic. And just watch as it heads southward, blasting down into the eastern United States, bringing far below normal temperatures. So that right there is my definition of an Arctic blast. Now that we got that out of the way, let's move on. And this is going to be by the time we're reaching Thursday, August 25th. We can see only some cold air underneath really left over, but we have some warmer air moving into the northeastern United States. Still dealing with this positive PNA, but for the most part, warmer temperatures for the northeast and the north central United States at this point. Now, as we work our way towards Saturday, the 27th, you can see it looks a lot of the same. So you're probably wondering, where is that cool down? Well, by Monday, we already see things cooling down a little bit here along the eastern and the Gulf states. That's the 29th. We can see by Monday, later on Monday, we can see a little bit more of that taking place. And then by the time we're reaching about Wednesday, August 31st, it's pretty clear that Arctic blast is over the eastern United States, bringing far below normal temperatures here for a lot of the green regions, 10 to 15 degrees below normal. Blues will be about 1 to 10 degrees below normal. And we'd see far above normal temperatures here for the West Coast. That's that positive PNA just setting in place, and that's what's allowing for this cold air to dive into the east. Otherwise, it would probably be diving into the west instead. So just some context there. And all the way until August 3rd, we still see this cold air set in place, or September 3rd, better yet. So the very, very end of August into the first week of September seems to be the peak of this big time cool down and Arctic blast that we're seeing take place. Positive PNA still sitting around here for the west, not allowing this cold to go anywhere but the east, really. We can see that by September 5th, we see a lot of different regions seeing this cooler air. September 7th, better yet, we have mostly cooler air for the west or the eastern 2/3 of the nation here. And all the way to the end of the model run here on Thursday, September 8th, we still see the cooler air in the eastern United States, and we still see a positive PNA for the most part out west. So when will this pattern break? I don't really know, but what I do know is that we're heading into a pattern that is highly favorable for Arctic blasts, which for a lot of people that have been dealing with a ton of heat over the summer is probably an exciting thing to hear. Now for a long-range outlook, and we'll actually just kind of move past. Let me move back to the other model run here where we have the full outlook here. This is the time period where the GFS shows a lot of the cooler air, and it is showing the cooler air, but not a ton, obviously, over that 5-day period of the 1st through the 6th. But as we take a look at the 6th through about the 11th, we see some cooler air around. But it's really once we move towards the 15th through the 20th of September, so later on in September, this model really gets us cooling down in the eastern United States. Clearly Arctic blast, and this is clearly an Arctic air mass that has moved down. And we still see a positive PNA out west. Positive PNA sitting in mostly warmer temperatures out there. And that's what's forcing this cold air to move around and into the eastern United States. As we take a look at the 20th through the 25th, things get a little bit wonky. We see some cooler air out west and in the east. This is when confidence in models kind of lowers. But as we take a look at the 27th through the 2nd of October, we see the warmer air return. This looks like a normal pattern to me. Therefore, the model can be taken slightly seriously, at least. This is pretty long range, but the important thing to note isn't the exact dates. That's how we get an accurate look into the long ranges. We're not paying attention like, oh, between the 27th and the 2nd of October precisely, we're going to see far below normal temperatures. Obviously, that's a lot harder to predict than to say this model shows 2 or 3 Arctic blasts over the next month or month and a half. Don't pay attention to the date. Don't pay attention to the specifics. That's the things that models have trouble with. But the thing they have they have an easy time with, better yet, is predicting an overall pattern. And the overall pattern points towards multiple Arctic blasts being possible. That's going to be a lot easier to predict in the long range. So September 27th to the 2nd of October, not that the dates matters, that's what this model is calling for in particular. But as we head towards early October, in general, it calls for even further below normal temperatures in the east. So things are just getting more and more extreme every single time. Definitely something we're going to be tracking over the coming weeks. And I'm really excited to talk about it. I'm really excited to move towards fall. September 1st is the first day of fall meteorologically, which is going to be more accurate than the calendar seasons, obviously. And it makes a lot more sense. September 1st to December 1st being your fall time, December 1st to March 1st being your winter time, March 1st to June 1st being your springtime, and then June 1st to September 1st being your summertime. Just makes a lot more sense. It's easier to keep track of, and it's much more in line with the weather, if that makes sense. Now, taking a look at some of the upcoming storminess, we're going to see potential for nor'easters developing offshore of the southeast and then moving up the coast, as most of our precipitation, as you'll see over the next 15 or so days, is going to be in this corridor. We will see quite a bit developing in here as well for the upper Midwest, and that's going to bring quite a bit of precipitation as well. So first off, as we move towards Friday the 26th, we see plenty of precipitation taking place down here. Also some activity in the northeast. That's kind of our highlight there. Trying to see when we start to get some interesting things developing. Here are some of that upper Midwest activity I was mentioning, so we are going to get some activity there. Southeast kind of looks like something could be brewing. We'll take a look at that. We do get this kind of transferring towards a nor'easter a little bit there, where a lot of its activity is offshore of New England. Could be considered a Miller B type nor'easter by August 31st potentially. And when things start to get interesting is around September 3rd here, which will be Saturday. We see this low develop in here and move straight up the coast. So we'll see that take place here. Very interesting nor'easter development there. We see a couple of storms that take place similar to that over the course of the model run. As I'm just scrolling through it, you can tell a lot of that activity takes place in this kind of corridor, moving in this direction. Now, as far as total precipitation over the next 10 days, that's certainly not it. That's the beginning of the model run. Here's the next 10 to 15 days here. We can see anywhere in the whites are expecting about pretty much no precipitation. Your grays will be a 1/10 of an inch or less. Your greens will be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds will be 2 to 5 inches, and then your browns will be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. So quite a bit expected. A lot there for those Gulf states in the southeast, and then also that upper Midwest and kind of plains regions as well as the northeast. Now, what we're going to do is move on, take a look at that 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook, where we have a huge update. Now, the huge update is that we now have 2 disturbances here on the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook in our main development region there offshore of Africa, heading towards the Caribbean and the United States. Storm number 1, which we've been tracking, has been lowered from a 20% chance to a 10% chance. So chances are diminishing. I think conditions are pretty favorable over the Caribbean. We'll have to watch that closely, but chances are going down a little bit there over the next 5 days. Our next disturbance, however, is at a 20% chance right out of the gates in the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. So we'll have to track this one as well. Obviously, odds of them both developing are relatively low, but it is a possibility. Now, over the next 2 days, which is 48 hours, obviously, we have a 0% chance of development on both of these storms, so keep that in mind as well. Now, we will be going over this daily, so be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like the video if you did, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next video.